Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 187. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Montaigne. The Australian singer and songwriter returned last Friday with their third studio record, Making It. In today's episode, we're speaking with Montaigne about their creative process, working with David Byrne, and how this record will be translated into a live setting. Here we go. Our guest today is a Sydney-born singer-songwriter. They're known for the success of their previous records, Glorious Heights and Complex, respectively, winning Best Breakthrough Artist at the ARIA Awards in 2016, and representing Australia at the Eurovision Song Contest in 2021. Last week, they released their brilliant third record, Making It. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Montaigne. Hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm really well. I went shopping and I got some new jeans and that was nice. And I got as I was saying to you before, got my film back from me and my partner's New Zealand trip and it looks really good. So everything's gravy.
That's awesome. I think, I'm not sure how old you are and I know it's impolite to ask a lady her age, but I found as I get older, there's a bit like jean shopping is actually really satisfying.
I don't really have any strong feelings about it. I don't know. I'm not very good at eyeballing whether or not jeans are cut in the way that I want them to. I kind of just have to try them on and see what happens. I generally know. I think I'm generally like a small or whatever. So in that ballpark, even if it is larger, I'll just wear them low or like tie a belt around it or something. So anyway, that was completely mundane, but who cares?
It is no. I appreciate the honesty with that. It is a very, very exciting week for you. We are about to be blessed with a brand new Montaigne record in the form of Making It, which comes out this Friday. Congratulations. Thank you kindly. Of course. This record, having a listen to it, we were very lucky to be given a bit of a sneak preview of this record. It is extremely fun. It is sonically challenging, and I mean that in a positive way. It's keeps the listener on its toes. It's a brilliant record, so congratulations. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I feel really good about it. Yeah, and as you should. This record is the third under the Montaigne project, and I'm curious just from the get-go. I feel like the cliche is always that it's the difficult second record that kind of shows whether artists have what it takes to continue, whatever it may be. As this is the third, how did you feel coming into this record? Was there less pressure on this, or were you just kind of going in however you kind of wanted to?
I think it's a bit of column A and column B. I generally go into a record wanting to do whatever I want to do. I don't really make compromises in that regard, I don't think. But I would be lying if I said that I didn't feel like the pressure to also produce something that makes what I do commercially viable and have me be able to still make a living wage / more than just a living wage on the back of my music career. So I don't know. The thing is, I've always been interested in pop music and playing in that field, and I know if I continue to do that, there will be opportunities for like growing audience and things like that. So, you know, that's already built into my psyche and the way I make music, so I don't have to worry about that too much. And I think because of that, when I do go into the studio and I'm like, okay, this is the wavelength I'm on, this is the aesthetic I want to try and build, this is the themes and whatever that I want to write about, I try not to be too like conscious of, I don't know, social, societal, commercial expectations, because I think that kind of just like kills like genuine creativity. So yeah.
Yep. No, I can very much appreciate that and understand that. The title is Making It, and I guess talking a little bit about having music be commercially viable and also wanting to, as you mentioned, not kind of have to give in on any of your artistic integrity. Where did the title come from in relation to Making It? Because it could be about the process of making the album, as in you're in the middle of making something. It could be, as you referred to, success. Like, yeah, for you, where did this title kind of stem from?
It is all of the above. I did choose it because of like how like multitudinous the meanings can be. Partly, I mean, I think it initially struck me because of the idea of like making and creating something from scratch and the process of that and the trials and tribulations of striving for that, just because this album was very much like it went on a winding journey to become what it is. And part of it was my own sort of like unnecessary interference with the work. Like, obviously I'm the one making it and helping shepherd it, but I did just throw a curveball at myself and it with this sort of like retconned idea that I'd make it like a space concept album. And, you know, that I think itself sort of stemmed from this really transient place of either insecurity or just like a sort of contemporary passion. And, you know, once I had some space outside of it and realized like this album was not a space concept record, like none of the songs really worked that way. And it sort of just came back to the core, which was just that it was mostly songs written about like me and my partner's relationship and who I've become in this relationship. That made more sense and was easier to sort of like, you know, create the rest of the aesthetic and vision around. And so, yeah, just I wanted the title to describe the sort of, yeah, the winding path that is like creating a thing and all the left turns that you take and then only to do 2 more left turns and come back around. And yeah, and then the other meanings as well is just like success and what it means to make it, especially as my definition of it has changed, and also like making it in a friendship or a relationship and like overcoming the hurdles that, you know, arise and sort of the bridging the conflict or, you know, differences between the two of you and making it through that without like giving up and quitting. Yeah.
Very, very fair. I think the record, well, I wonder, just like quickly touching on that last bit, and I know that I can recognize this is a bit of a loaded question. In your mind, do you feel ever that you have made it, or is it like a ever moving kind of goalpost that just seems to shift and move when it chooses?
It does a little bit. I think that's just a product of capitalism and the sort of continuous growth that is expected of all like businesses and people in terms of building their capital, whichever kind that is. I'm very content with where I'm at right at this moment. In terms of my career, I feel really good about it. Like, I make enough money to do this full time. I'm not famous enough to like have it really be cumbersome to my life, and just enough for like there to be neat little perks. And yeah, I'm in a good place. It's just maintaining that, I think, is also difficult, even though I don't necessarily want to grow it too much. Like, I'd like to tour overseas. I think that's something that that's a moving goalpost that I would still like to strive for. But just for me, it feels more like a maintenance game. And that is difficult with the way that technology and the like social technology that governs us at the moment, and culture like keeps evolving like extremely rapidly and in a way that I don't really bode well with. Like, things seem to, there's a real TikTokification of social media in the world that like I as a consumer enjoy, because I think like I like not the business practices of, but like the content of TikTok. But I don't really want to be a producer of content on TikTok, but I kind of have to be now, because Instagram has like also shifted their sort of like format and their model to be more like TikTok and all that stuff. So, I think, just to go back to the core question, like my definition of success is just to like have a stable life. and I more or less do, except for like just the figuring out how to keep up with the next moment and the next moment and the next moment that comes along materially and culturally and stuff like that, which is admittedly very stressful, but it feels less like a goal to become legendary and more of a goal to just be comfortable and happy. Yeah.
I can very much appreciate that. And we've spoken to a few artists about the shift from becoming just an artist to an artist / social media personality. And I don't want to focus on that too much. I want to get back to this album, but to kind of tie it together, I think that you've done very well in the content or the music that you've got for said content that might come out is quite fun. As we mentioned, this album is quite upbeat. It's quite fun, sonically beautiful. One of my favorite tracks from this album was JC Ultra, which I can kind of see across some social media platforms just due to its, I want to say fun nature. I'm trying to think of a better word for fun, but it was literally, when I was listening to the album, I was kind of taken aback and then had to revisit it one or two times. But are you able to, I guess, give us a little bit of an insight or a peek behind the curtain on where this crazy but brilliant song kind of started from and came from?
It's so funny because when we made this song, I was like, I want to do this for Eurovision. And then I played it, like I sent it to everyone. I was like, this is my Eurovision song. And I played it to my parents, played it to everyone. And everyone was like, it's really weird. What? Like, this is just like a boppy, fun pop song. Like, I don't understand what is confronting. Like, what? I don't get it. Like, I think this is just normal. But everyone unanimously was just like, this is too challenging for people. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I'm glad you like it, one, and two, so it came from like a convoluted beginning and middle, but I was reading this book called How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, and he mentions like the MK Ultra program that the CIA sort of like had going in, I don't remember what era, it was like 70s or 80s maybe, or 60s, and yeah, it was just like a brainwash program trying to use like LSD and hallucinogens to like see if they could basically change people's minds, and propagandize them. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I wrote a song where Jessica Serro, that's my real name, was my manager but like was a really intense, like almost like American, like I'm promising you the world, but probably like going to underdeliver, like in Psycho Manager, and just like trying to condition me to do all of the stuff that is required of me in my career, but that I don't really want to do. So like the social stuff and like just being like, you know, a public personality. It's not stuff I like necessarily like hate. I just wish the accepted styles of personality were like a little more suited to my personality. But anyway, yeah, what if it was external version of me telling myself like you have to do this and just like brainwashing or conditioning me to like just be into it. But then I was like, oh, it's kind of like hard to explain in a 3-minute song. So it ended up just like organically evolving within the day to be about like an alien group who has like settled on Earth, but like humans are still a bit like suspicious and not fully accepting, and they don't assume any positions of power on Earth and stuff. And so they start like, or like a contingent of this alien group like starts a major music label through which they like sign artists promising, you know, wealth and fame or whatever people want, I suppose, when they sign to these big labels. And in the process, like kind of the movie that came into my head was Zoolander, and how like, what's his name? Magatu. How Magatu has like that chamber that he puts Zoolander in, and he just like, it's got Relax, whatever. I don't remember the band that sings that song, but anyway, you know the scene. And it's just like the swirls, and I like imagined it like that. And then they come out and they're like ready to like be spreading the word about how great the aliens are, and it's so great that they came to Earth, and like, you know, whatever, all that shit. It's like not that deep. It's very me just like being silly, and I hadn't filled in any of the details of this concept, but I just thought it would be like a fun and funny song to make, and I think it is.
I would have to agree that it is. It is a very fun song, and I'm so glad that I asked for the explanation behind it, because that is not what I was expecting, and that was just brilliant. So thank you very much for that.
No problem. No problem.
You are not alone on making it. There are a few guests. One I know that everyone's kind of talking about, we will talk about in a second. The first guest I wanted to talk about was the Japanese-French artist Micah, and I want to make sure I pronounce her last name correctly, because I think there's a silent B, but I could be wrong. Is it Lute?
No, I think, well, this is the thing. I speak French, and so I've made assumptions about how to pronounce her last name. I think it's Micah, like Lute, like Lubte. I say Lubte in English, like Michael Lubte. Yeah.
That's probably a lot better than my pronunciation, so thank you for that. I know that she collaborated with you on Comet's Death, which is the last track of the album. How did that collaboration come about?
So I had written all of Comet Death already. We'd pretty much finished it. I'd sung second verse and the bridge and the whole thing, but I'd made like online friends with Micah because I really love her music, and we wanted to do something together, but I didn't know why. And after like months and months and months, like I was like, oh shit, like she could absolutely sing on this song. Like it would make so much sense. Her voice is beautiful. I'd love to like have her on board. And yeah, I asked her and she was like, yeah, absolutely. And just did it really quickly, just send me the files over WhatsApp, and yeah, it just like happened. And that one was one of the sort of like less exciting stories about getting her on board. We met just because I tweeted or Instagram DM'd her or something, I don't remember anymore, and was just like, I love your music, and fortunately she liked me back. And yeah, that was kind of it, just like internet friends.
That's very cool. And I love these days, a lot of the artists that we speak to, it does seem to be that you can just kind of cut out a lot of that.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
I want to say middleman work, and that's no disrespect to the labels or whatever, but it's more so that you can just go artist to artist directly now and interact and collaborate.
100%. It's been wonderful, like just discovering and realizing and opening my heart to that possibility over the last couple of years, and just like, swapping stems with people and seeing what happens. It's been real fun.
I do have to ask, because I know there's going to be quite a few people wanting to know, is that the same of how it happened for one young David Byrne who appears on 2 tracks of this record?
Kind of, not the same platforms, but basically Dave Hammer, who is the producer on this record, was like, we have to get David on this, because I just always talk about David Byrne with him. I think we met like 5 years prior to working together, like, but in a real passing way. Like, I didn't remember meeting him. He was like, oh, we met like at a songwriting camp like 5 years ago or whatever, when we started working together 2 years ago. And I was even talking about David Byrne then, apparently. So, I mean, not surprising to me, because, you know, he's my favorite and has been for a long time. But, Dave was like, we have to do it. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. So if you can figure it out, like, let me know. And he got his manager at the time to just like email a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. And there was a guy who had his email and was like, just send him one and see what happens. And so I did. I just sent an email with like, it was like an essay. It was like, hi, this is me. I'm making this album. This is what it's about. This is its politics. This is like the whole thing. And I wrote this specific song, Gravity, for you to sing on. Like, let me know if you're keen. And he replied like within 12 hours and was like, hi, Jess, great to meet you. Like, it's weird I haven't heard your music before, because I like listen really broadly and deeply. Can't wait to like listen. Let me just like digest and process this and I'll get back to you. And I was like, wow. And yeah, so that was kind of it. Like, he sort of didn't reply again, I think. Oh, like he did. I said something back and then he said something back, and then I didn't hear from him for a few months. Like, he didn't like send back anything about the songs or anything. And I was kind of like, you know what, that's fine. Like, I'm just glad he replied and he said he'd like listen to my music. Like, even if this doesn't work out and he doesn't come on the album, then that's still really cool. And then a few months later, he was like, oh, I just like finished like rehearsals for American Utopia, so I'm free now, like send me the stuff again and I'm like keen to listen. And I was like, oh yeah, here. And he was like, oh, these are all hits to me, like I love this. I like this specific thing about this song, and I like this specific thing about this song. And like, it was really like thorough feedback that was really lovely, and he was really supportive, and he was like, yeah, I'd absolutely love to be on these songs. So he did end up singing Gravity, and then inevitably we were like, how about also Always Be You? And because that song had like, I'd written the first verse and second verse and like all the choruses, but the bridge was still empty and I didn't know what to put there. And so I was like, maybe you could do the bridge. And then he did, and it was perfect. I was like, okay, this is cool, but also it feels a bit weird only having you in the bridge. Like, it doesn't really make sense narratively if we are to say there's a narrative here. And so I was like, can you sing the second verse as well? And then he did, and it was perfect. And he did ad-libs and backing vocals and stuff like that, and it was all perfect, and it was all very easy. And that, again, was just like sending stems like over email back and forth. So yeah, that was he just answered my email.
That's incredible. I love that story.
He's a good egg. I was like tossing and turning over whether or not to say egg or not. I call people good eggs, but I do wonder if it's like a patronizing thing to someone who's like, you know, much older and much more established and like legendary than I am. But he is a good egg.
I don't think, from all accounts that I've heard of David Byrne, from everything in the media, and we had his the musical director of American Utopia, Mauro Rafosco. He also has his own band who we had on the podcast last year.
Cute.
And by all accounts, he said very similar things. He might not have called him an egg, but very similar words to say about him. And I don't think I think he would kind of embrace the term egg.
Oh, yeah, I think so as well. Also, Mauro played on my 2019 album, Complex. He played on I'm a Clown. And I think that's it. Oh, and Change as well.
So bringing it all back together, it all just kind of like...
It is a small world. The music industry, it's a small world.
It definitely is. I think that there's some misconception about... Well, it is still a very large world, but there's a lot of ties that people don't really realise. The album is also going to be greeted by fans on the road. You are kind of heading back out to see this great nation, I think the end of September and then throughout October. When was the last time you kind of got to go on such a tour of this scale?
Oh, it's been ages. I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 years. Like, yeah, I don't think I've done a fully fledged national tour for a long time, like before pandemic, basically. I think it was 2019 with the Complex tour. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to it? Are there nerves? How are you feeling about it?
It's, definitely excited, but also nervous. I don't know, I just haven't had the same frequency of performing that I used to. And so I'm not as like match ready, I suppose. And that's nerve wracking because you kind of just like want to have it in the tank. And, I don't necessarily, but also, I don't know, I think my fans are pretty chill and cool and like will just be up for being in the space and hearing the music and hearing me. So that's nothing to be too nervous about, I suppose.
From all accounts that I've heard, a lot of people very excited to kind of have you back on the road and see you touring again. So hopefully this year excitement will kind of help ease some of those nerves and calm some of those thoughts, I guess, in relation to going onto the road and with an album that is such as large and as we mentioned, sonically adventurous. Do you not struggle? What's the phrase? How do you go in turning some of those songs into like a live version of it? Because I imagine that for some it's a little bit more difficult than others. It's not work that I necessarily do. I have a music director and band who sort of focus on the Abletonization of everything, I suppose. So we like use a push and we use an SPDSX and we use like laptops and MIDI controls and stuff like that to be able to play things that are like inorganic or not replicable on stage with like live instruments and, you know, just like extra stuff that we just don't have enough hands on deck for. So I imagine for this first run it'll just be that. I think we'll just try to replicate the studio recording as best as possible through, you know, like samples and all that stuff, as well as, you know, whatever's being played live. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe in future shows we might try to make it a bit more like stripped back and not acoustic, but just like a bit more live. Because again, the difficulty with this music is that so many of the sounds are synthetic, which means like playing them on live drums just like fundamentally changes the aesthetic and the feeling and the sound. So it's not like a one-to-one transfer, but also
shows feel way better when drums are played live rather than just like someone hitting like an SPDSX, I find, at least for this kind of music, because like, I don't know, I think for dance, fine, because dance music is just about dancing and like you don't need a live player necessarily to like create the feeling of wanting to dance to a song. But I don't know, with my music, I think like people are always really excited to see my drummer Miles like play because he's amazing and like brings so much energy to it and just like an extreme like commitment to craft and all that stuff. So I don't know. I think it will probably just be largely like trying to figure out how to just be faithful to the recording. But maybe at some point after we've done this sort of like album test run, I suppose, of like the electronics, we might change it up. Who knows?
As I mentioned before, regardless, I think people are excited to see you back on the road. So I think fans will take whatever they can get in the loveliest, most respectful way.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Live drums or synth pads, they will be there regardless. Jess, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to, if there is anything that is on high rotation for yourself at the moment.
What am I listening to at the moment? I haven't like been listening to bodies of work much lately. It's been very piecemeal, sort of song here, song there. But my favorite albums of the year so far are this album called Nia by Kahu Nakamura. So that's like NIA. She's like my favorite. She's amazing. I'm a huge fan of that album. I was waiting for it like avidly for 2 years and it really paid off. It's a really good album. Porter Robinson, I've gotten into his album from, I think, last year. I think he released it last year, Nurture, this year. That's really beautiful. I've also been getting back into like Utada Hikaru, who's like this big Japanese sort of like superstar who made the music for Kingdom Hearts, or not all of the music, but like the theme songs. And I was a big fan of her when I was 12. And then sort of just like didn't return, or would listen to a couple of songs here and there throughout like my life. But now I'm like, well, she released an album this year called Bad Mode, basically, and it's really good as well. So been listening to her a lot, and same with another Japanese group called M-Flow, who like kind of, I actually don't know when their peak was, but I think it's like around 2001 kind of thing, or 2001 to 2003, and they're like this hip-hop group with a female like vocalist. And the music is really good. So yeah, I really enjoy Japanese music. Like I just think the language sounds amazing. It's like super rhythmic and very like the way that vowels carry between consonants is just, I just love it. Like my ears just adore it. And I think also like the chords that I use, like the Royal Road progression and stuff, I just like find that stuff to be so, I just love it. I think it's the best. So, you know, not all artists sort of write in that way, but I do think there's like maybe some kind of creative like thread tying them all together. I don't know, maybe it's just like the feeling that the language produces, but it does feel like there's this like unity of feeling in a bunch of the music that I listen to, which is like really wonderful.
That's awesome. I feel like I know obviously they're worlds away genre-wise, if you will, but I think the fact that in the last few years the world has become a lot more accepting of K-pop, for one thing, has then kind of opened up these other smaller doors that have allowed J-pop and other kinds of different genres of music from these countries to come through and be more widely accepted, which is a fantastic thing, I think.
I think people, are just like starting to accept that you can listen to and have an emotional response to music in languages you don't understand. Like I've always felt this way. Like I don't understand Japanese. I don't understand I didn't understand much Portuguese. I didn't I've always listened to music in other languages, but I've always loved all of it, not because of or despite them being in other languages, just because it's music and it sounds good. 100%. I also don't need to understand the lyrics in order to derive meaning from music. And I think people, again, are learning that a little bit. Like it's not just, Asian language songs, also America has a massive like Latinx population. So obviously like a lot of the hits now are in Spanish, and like, you know, I think like as we become more and more globalized, and that's just like, I don't know, I feel like we're on an exponential like curve that will eventually produce like, I don't know, maybe not an exponential curve, maybe there'll be diminishing returns, but like, yeah, I think we're just going to get more and more used to that, and we're going to hear more and more like foreign language like on radio or whatever.
100% agreed. I think there's and this is not a question, this is mainly just almost a reference or a tip. I'm not sure if you have a Netflix account. There's a TV show on there called Crash Landing Into You, which is a K-drama.
Cool.
And the music from that show, it elicits so much response. And I think it's, at one point it was quite popular as like the number 8 show in the world. So it seems to be connecting outside of Korea. But yeah, definitely worth checking out just in terms of, as you mentioned, music and having an emotional response where you don't have to understand the lyrics.
Sick. Love it.
It's a very odd reference to end on. But
it's fine. I'm into it. I love a music recommendation.
I'll make sure that we put those recommendations from yourself into the show notes of this podcast. But Jess, Montaigne, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I do appreciate it. Congratulations again on Making It, which is out later this week.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Montaigne for their time. Making It is out now, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to buy the record. We also want to give a huge shout out to Nick at Sony Music Australia for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode. You can follow the player's profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
Never sleep hot again with Bowl and Branch's best-selling naturally cooling sheets. They feel super crisp and cool to the touch and are expertly designed for enhanced breathability so you don't overheat at night. Start getting your best night's sleep this summer with cooling sheets made with the highest quality materials. Try Bowl and Branch with a 30-night worry-free guarantee. Plus, get 15% off and free shipping on your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com with code BUTTERY. Exclusions apply. See site for details.